Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. This is the first official episode of Nip to the Loo. So I went to the cinema today for a wonderful solo trip to see Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. Before we get into my review of the film, I'm going to start these episodes talking about a few things that have interested me. You know, what's in the media, what's in the news, something I've been watching or listening to. Yeah, I mean, do you care? I don't know. Let me know. So, the first thing, I am absolutely obsessed at the moment with listening to London Grammar. I don't know what it is. I think it's like something about amping me up on my morning commute to work. But honestly, if you wake up on the wrong side of bed, it doesn't amp you up. It makes you really quite sad. So, which tracks are even my favourite? Because I listen to them and I just listen to every single song on the past few albums they've had. I'm not even sure I know which title goes to which one. But Night Call, Metal and Dust, America, yeah, these are tunes I am jamming to this week. Well, actually, probably for a good 2 or 3 months. And it's wild because I don't know why I wasn't listening to them before, other than obviously when they have major hits. Another thing that I have watched, and I'm a bit gutted because I wanted to do a review on it, but I did that thing where I didn't quite catch it the day it came out, and then I've been doing the dual screen scrolling my phone. You know what? I need to watch it again. Amandaland. Have you seen Motherland? Because you need to see Amandaland. Lucy Punch delivers an amazing performance, as she always does. And for anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's essentially a TV series. It's a BBC series that is following mums in a London neighbourhood. Quite a nice one. They're not super posh. They're quite relatable. Motherland, in fact, you have a huge mix. So you follow Julia, and then you have all the other characters. Now we're following Amanda, hence Amandaland. And she is sort of the previously had a lot of money, posh, wannabe posh, and now has moved on to, she's had a divorce, she had to get a house in a less desirable neighbourhood, and she chooses to call it Soha. We're going to rebrand it. It's now Soha. And yeah, it's great. You know what? Actually, I might do a review. Does it matter if it's late? Probably not. I'll watch it all again. Maybe we can do Motherland as well. And then another thing. So I work in marketing in my day job. Duolingo. What the Duolingo's happening here? Like, there was something around the owl duo. The owl's dead. Why has the owl died? I actually love the way the app changes for if you have not been learning your language. I don't know, do you learn Spanish? Do you learn Mandarin? Whatever the language is, if you haven't turned up to your lessons, they are going to let you know by making this owl look so sad, and they're going to notify you, and it's great. But now Duo is dead. And you know what? It was just wild, the notification. Like, I don't know how I feel about making a joke out of death. I think that's risky, but I get it. Risky pulls through the crowd. But then they're like, send us your credit card details and we'll sign you up to Duolingo Max or whatever. Oh gosh, we're doing marketing now for them. But you don't ask for that online. That's crazy. But yeah, so that is what I have been looking at this week. Things that I am looking forward to, actually, because I just went to the cinema, there are some amazing trailers for films. I'm going to save that for a little bit later because, you know, I'm going to do some previews. So, next up, looking at Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. So, Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, released today, 13th February 2025 in the UK. It's a romantic comedy film directed by Michael Morris. Fun fact, I believe that it is the first of the 4 films to be directed by a man. And these films have been adapted into screenplays from the books written by Helen Fielding with Dan Mazer and Abby Morgan. So, yeah, this is the 4th in a set of films. The last one to come out was in 2016, Bridget Jones's Baby. And for anyone that isn't familiar, but I'm sure most people know the first and second films, you've got Bridget Jones's Diary, the original in 2001, sort of closely followed by Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason in 2004. So I really loved all of these films. I did not watch the first two until I was in my sort of adult era. So when the first film came out, I would have been nearly 6 years old. Yeah, I think I left it a good 12 or so years. But they have become some of my most favourite rom-com classics. And I remember exactly where I was watching the third film. And it became my favourite. So I do find it interesting. They did 2 in close succession, waited 12 years, and then another 9 for this one. But I am telling you now, and I will save my full review for later, my full opinion. But it's basically 10 out of 10 for me. It just hits on so many points that we will talk through in a moment. So I'll give you a quick overview, the sort of synopsis of the film. So how it goes. Bridget Jones finally has some luck in her life. She has a great job as a screenwriter, her family and a new boyfriend. And the fact that he is over 20 years younger than her isn't the only thing that is causing problems. That's not right, is it? That is the... Where does that come from? That comes up everywhere. Is that the AI thing? Because that's not right. Let me see if I can find the film synopsis. That's not right. Maybe that's what happens in the books. This is wild. So I'm going to tell you the actual thing. She does finally have some luck in her life. I don't want to ruin... You know what? I'm going to have to ruin it. But obviously, if you've seen the trailer, you know that Mark Darcy, the love of her life, she's switching between Mark Darcy and Daniel in the first film, but we all know that Mark Darcy is the one that she ends up with. Even though they have a big break between the second and third films, they get back together. They have 2 kids. Well, in this 4th instalment, Mark Darcy unfortunately died 4 years previously doing his humanitarian work in Sudan. And so she hasn't had luck over the past few years. There's also a few more deaths and things that happen in her family and with friends and stuff like that. But in this film, luck changes, and as she says, she climbs a magical man tree. So she does end up with a boyfriend that's over 20 years younger. She's not a screenwriter, she's a television producer. And also, they're not really boyfriend and girlfriend. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, that's not quite right. But there we are. So if you haven't seen it yet, or you actually don't know much about the film, what I'm going to do now is play a bit of the trailer. Obviously you're just going to be able to hear it, but I think it will give you a pretty good insight into what it's all about.
In life, there are memories that will never leave us.
I like you very much, just as you are.
But sometimes those memories are suddenly
Bridget!
all we're left with.
Ah, Mrs. Darcy?
Mr. Wallaker. Why is your granny wearing pajamas?
Bridget, you're a widow with 2 wonderful children. My advice to you is put your own oxygen mask on first. You just have to get laid.
Shaz is right.
Oh my God.
It's been 4 years now.
You're effectively a nun. A very, very naughty nun.
I've set you up on Tinder.
What's Tinder? Mummy! Mabel's stuck up the tree! We're going to die!
Everything all right, Mrs. Darcy?
Oh my God.
Hiya.
We've climbed a magical man tree.
Hello?
You can call me Rockstar.
Bridget Jones. But you can call her Mummy.
Is that the tree nice? If you don't shag him, I will.
How old are you?
28.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm 29.
We are about to embark on an adventure.
You sure you're up to this?
I'm your girl. Do you miss Dada sometimes?
I miss him all of the times.
Can you survive?
I think so.
It's not enough to survive, you've got to live.
Was that the Dalai Lama?
Just Harry Styles, I think.
Mr. Wallaker.
Now that is what I call a rebrand.
Did you have sex?
Did you have sex?
Did you have sex last night?
Yes, I did.
I had a full night of utterly mind-blowing sex, and it was amazing! Bridget Jones. It's time to live.
Uncle Daniel!
Miniature Darcy, what's the news?
Where are the ladies with the big...
Hair. Well, they couldn't make it, I'm afraid. They're washing their hair.
all three?
Well, they wash each other's, you see.
Okay, so if you haven't seen that before, then I hope you enjoyed it. It is a bit different for sure, not having the video in front of you, but I think it captures the story perfectly. I think, if anything, it probably touches on the more humorous sides. This film is definitely funny, romantic, and quite sad. It's sad for multiple reasons. So they do explore grief quite prominently in this film. And I think there's something about it being so nostalgic and wrapping up like an end of an era that adds to that. But, right, so I am regretting not writing down notes, but I didn't want to do that in the cinema. I opted for the popcorn and the ice blast. So we're going to do this from memory. I might miss a couple points. But essentially, the film, the first part, they have a really long opening section. So you know that part before the credits come on and the actual title comes on. It's actually really quite long. I should have checked the time. I'd probably have to guess around 20 minutes, but you know, who knows. Oh my god, I am such an idiot, right guys? I am using my microphone with the pop filter behind. I was just wondering why I could hear so many pops. So come with me as I turn. Oh, that sounds okay, right. So if I say pop, that's better. Oh my god, the whole thing sounds better. Sorry guys. Okay. Yeah, so it starts as chaotic as you can imagine. Bridget Jones single-handedly raising two small children, okay? Now, the second line in the film, it just set the scene for me. It set the whole thing. The older child, Billy, I actually don't remember what he says, but he says something. And then Mabel, the daughter, she says, "He is not my cat, he is my husband." Loved it. It was already funny to me. I was like, we are in for a treat. And yeah, the chaos that morning before going to school, it's amazing. Bridget turns up to school in her pyjamas with a coat on, and they're all just used to it. As the trailer just played, you can hear when they say, "Why is your grandma wearing her pyjamas?" It's just all of the sort of fears that she expressed in the previous film about being an older mum and you know, what are kids for her and stuff. It was all very much integrated into the very opening of this. And then we soon get to see her navigate a 4-year anniversary of Mark Darcy's death. So you know what? And a really important thing, Daniel being there. So Daniel is back. In the third film, they said how he had died, and at the end you realise it's not actually true. They oddly don't particularly cover it. They do nod to it at one point in the film, but yeah, he's back. He's there, and he is going to look after the children while she goes to this 4-year anniversary, sitting through lots of, "Oh, how are you doing? How are the children? Do they miss you?" All that sort of thing that obviously she is going to hate, but she's going to do that very Bridget thing of, "Oh, yes." And it's just lovely to see how they have formed a long-standing relationship and how he gets on with the children and all of that. So, yeah, we get to see that Mark Darcy's not there, and he does Colin Firth does make an appearance in the film. He walks up to the door with her, and then when the door is opened, he is no longer there. It makes it very clear that he is gone, and this is a key storyline throughout the film, particularly for the elder son, who Daniel sort of very lovingly refers to as a miniature Mark Darcy. So that's really, really nice. There is very much a good chance that I am not going in order of scenes right now, because I've already said about when she goes to school. But when she does turn up at the school, she is greeted to a new teacher, Mr. Wallaker, who is featured in the trailer as one of her love interests in the film. And you were also introduced to another like posh mother and father who have their twins. Oh, what were their names? Atticus and something. It was just, yeah, it was a nice addition to sort of school life that they introduce in this film. And yeah, Mr. Wallach is going to be a very important person in the film, especially later on. And I think the way that they set up their relationship at the beginning, like, oh, he's an icon because he essentially said to the posh mum, like, no. No, your son is not going to be in the choir because he's not a good singer. And clearly everyone used to pander to her. So they had a great initial meet-up despite the whistle. The whistle is Mr. Wallach's tool of choice to round up the kids and show his authority. Going again back to the party, when it all gets a bit too much, Shazza, played by Sally Phillips, one of the best friends from all of the other films, is there and is like, let's go. They go to the pub, and I just love that the friendship group is still strong. And again, this is one of the things that makes it feel really nostalgic, really kind of like you're a part of the film. You're a part of that friendship group, and they're back and they're still doing what they like to do. They go to the pub, they have their wine, they have their chat. They all tell Bridget that she needs to get laid. It's been 4 years. And again, they bring up the different stages of the grieving process, however many steps there may be, 4, 5, 7. And this is when we get to, really understand what the trajectory for Bridget is going to be in this film. She is going to try, or maybe she's not going to try and find love, but she's going to find it in some variation throughout the next 90 minutes or so. Emma Thompson makes a much appreciated, very welcomed comeback in this film. I thought she was a perfect addition to the last instalment. And while she's still a gynecologist, Bridget just goes to her for advice, for, doctor's appointments. And she also says, you need to start living life. Why don't you go back to work? And this is something that Bridget does eventually take on. She goes back to her job because one of her best friends is still the presenter that was in the previous film. And now she's working on a different television program that you can see her watching while she's, doing the kids' ironing and all of this. So she does eventually go back to being a television producer. And this is when everything sort of reignites and she is more willing and more open to go on apps, date, have fun, and live life. In one of the appointments where Bridget goes, even though, it's not for gynecology purposes, she's there and she has Mabel with her. And do you know what? I don't know why Mabel was there, because at the primary school, she's like, oh, she's got a doctor's appointment, but actually the doctor's appointment was for Bridget. But what's quite funny is in the background, whilst Bridget is talking to Emma Thompson, whose character's name apparently completely left my brain. She's in the background with a whole bunch of STD leaflets, which is just funny because she's trying to pronounce gonorrhea. And then later on, when they come to school, Bridget drops all the leaflets. They all come out of a bag in front of Mr. Wallach, and she's like, "Oh, they're not mine. They're Mabel's." And it's like another scene later on when she is at the pharmacy. She doesn't really know what to expect for her date with Rockstar and is buying every possible type of protection you could find. Evidently, being in a relationship before with Mark Darcy, maybe this wasn't something that she had to look out for herself, or those other things. But who appears behind her in the queue? Mr. Wallach. So it's quite interesting that he's finding this endearing, because it'd make me run a mile. I was trying to keep count of how many times I cried in this film, and I think it was 7, but I did start losing where I was on my counting when I got to around 4 or 5. One of the moments was when Bridget is looking at a photo of her and her dad, who we love from every film. He's always such a great support of Bridget. And we find out that this photo is actually, well, what I'm assuming is the last photo they have together. And they go back to the scene where it was taken, which was with him in what looked like a very nice kind of hospital bed. Was it a conservatory? But it was there, and she went to see him, and it's just such a perfect thing that they did, where she pulls out something wrapped in tissue, and it's a sausage. All he wants is a sausage, and obviously the mum's like, oh no, the saturated fats. We must not give him, what the doctor said. And yeah, it's just so cute. And again, he's kind of the final push, saying, Bridget, just make sure you live life. Don't just survive. live. And that's obviously talking about losing Mark and how is she getting on. She says she's surviving, but you've got to get out there and you've got to live. Because she knows she's going back to work, she needs to get a nanny, and the posh mother at school has a good recommendation for her and, you know, slyly throws in there that she's very pretty, but it doesn't matter because you're a widow. So that's always nice. By the way, I don't know what's being picked up on the microphone, but if you can hear noises in the background, I have pets. And I can hear them on the wheel, so just for future reference. Because I film mostly at night and the ones near me are nocturnal. But yes, so she gets a babysitter called Chloe, and, you know, she's just the ultimate perfect nanny that really grates on Bridget because, you know, that is what is endearing about Bridget. She's not perfect and she makes really quite silly mistakes, but they're funny and they're nice. And so she sort of instantly sees this as a bit of a rivalry, but that does change later on in the film. Yeah, to think I could do this without actually a plot breakdown is kind of wild. But at some point soon after this, she takes her children to the Heath. So they don't live. She doesn't live in that flat by Borough Station anymore. She doesn't live there at all. She now lives in Hampstead Heath. So a very nice area. She has a house. She has a house. They have a neighbour, which is Isla Fisher. So yeah, a nice little cameo there. It actually took me forever to put the name. I knew exactly who it was. I was like, what's the name of this person? So they're the annoying neighbour. But when they go to Hampstead Heath, the children decide to climb a tree. And I don't know how they get there. 2 seconds flat, bam, up the top of the tree. So she tries to go up and join them join to help and get them down. And that fails. So then Mr. Wallaker, he turns up and because she's pretending that she's absolutely fine, he goes with it. He's like, okay, I'll sort of leave you to it. And then we have Leo Woodall playing Rockster. Yeah, Rockster. Unusual name, I've not heard of it. But he turns up on his little buggy and helps them come down. And yeah, it's quite charming. I understand we've set up the relationship here. And do you know what I was wondering before watching this? That scene is in the trailer, so we know how they meet and we see that there's sort of an attraction. But I was like, there is not a chance that she's going to ask him out, or I don't think he would ask a random woman that he just helped down from a tree out while he's working with the kids there. So I did like how they did it. Oh, of course. So her friend registers her to Tinder, and that when she comes out of the tree, the phone is open on her Tinder profile. So he knows that she is on that app. And later on, we find out that he downloads the app to try and find her to then talk to her. And the way their relationship goes, that I think works very well for Bridget, who's a bit scared to go properly back out into the dating pool, is they actually text all the time. And we later see a scene where he puts I don't know what emoji it was, an emoji that makes sense. And then she responds with the flag of Greece and 2 other emojis that I can't remember that are just, what are you saying, Bridget? But yeah, that's very much her character and definitely makes sense. And then when they do meet up, she does the same thing of wearing something not hideous, but not great, and then wearing something much nicer, much more suitable, and they meet up and they have an absolute blast. And yeah, he says, "Oh, are you 35?" And she goes with it. I do wonder if he found out her real age. I'm sure he knew she's not actually 35. But do we know the actual difference? Do they actually cover that topic? Because it is quite big. Something that's really nice is that even though Bridget has moved house and she now lives, in Hampstead Heath in a full property, not her flat that she was in for the first 3 films, they revisit it and it was really cute. So Rockster goes, "Oh, do you know this pub? Do you know like the area?" And she's like, "Oh yes, I did. I used to know it very well." And they go to the pub there, which I assume is the Globe Tavern, which is where her apartment was above. Now, I really liked their relationship. I thought they set it up very well. I do think they fast-tracked into something that was supposed to be considered quite serious to then suddenly stop. Like, I don't think it ever quite got to that point, but I love the way that they played on the stereotypes with Rockster. So, again, skipping on, later on in the film, there's a party and he arrives late, but perfectly at the time when this little new doggy is, well, it's not even drowning in the pool, it's just swimming. It's actually looking like it's having quite a nice time. But he dives in, the white shirt is all, stuck to his body, and then this pool obviously has the perfect steps so that he can just walk out very Baywatch style, and everyone is in awe. And then they realise that this is the garbage. He works in as they label it, garbage. He works in garbage, so they say, the garbage man, this is the garbage man. And then they make out at the end of the pool in front of a huge crowd of people. And yeah, I quite like the way they approach that. Then after that, they have such a great time. They end up in the room together, and he says, I wish I had a time machine. And that's when she knows that actually the age difference is a problem. And then the next day, that's it. He disappears. He ghosts her, and it's horrible, really. Like, for her first experience going back out into the dating world, to actually have something seemingly great and then not here, it's a lot. And something that we see when this relationship happens is that the younger child, the daughter Mabel, really takes to Rockstar. And something that they play on throughout the film is that every man that Mabel sees, she'll go, "Are you my new daddy?" She has some great one-liners in this film, like so many of them. "Are you my daddy?" And then, yeah, so she kind of says, there's a new guy. But Billy, the son, that is a little bit older and is more, he obviously has a lot more memories about his dad, Mark Darcy, and a lot more feelings towards the possibility of having him replaced. And when they go back to school after the summer holidays and talk to Mr. Wallaker, he essentially says, well, no, there's just a man, there's just another person there, it's just a person. Like, it's not my new dad, it's not this. And then you kind of see that that's where we're going to start exploring the grief of the elder child more, and see how the teacher fits in more into the storyline. So moving into what I guess I would say is sort of Act 2 of the film, we begin to look more into the relationship between Bridget and Mr. Wallaker. We look more into the grieving process of Billy, the older son. And I think it's important to note that Billy is playing, I imagine, around 9 years old, and then Mabel, 6, 7, 5? I'm really bad at guessing children's ages. But if Mark Darcy passed 4 years ago, then Mabel's obviously not going to have that memory of her father in the same way that Billy does. So it's very much Billy's journey that we follow. So there is a scene where Bridget goes to say goodnight to them because they're awake, and she goes for a routine that was something that she did with Mark, and then they sort of continue it as if Mark is there, almost like another flashback that's really quite moving. And when Bridget leaves, you can hear him singing "I'll Do Anything for You," which is quite an important part of the film later on. But going back into the sort of school part of the film, there's quite a lot of activity at the school, actually, more than I was anticipating. So Bridget always sticks a foot in it, and she ends up doing things that she'd rather not have signed up for. So one of them is Jobs Day, because she mentions that she's going back to work, and so she has to go in and do a presentation about her job, which, I mean, I think is super cool being a television producer. But the fact that the week previously it was someone's scientist mum who would win a Nobel Prize, she obviously doesn't feel that exciting in comparison, but it does end up being a good talk. So what she does is she sets up an interview, as she does in her day-to-day job, and the girl that's playing the sort of producer with the earpiece on the side was actually really good. She was 20 seconds to a live cut. It was great. And what she ended up doing at Bridget was interviewing Mr. Wallaker about the life cycle of a fruit fly. And again, this ended up, and I guess it took me by surprise, even though in hindsight it's a little bit obvious. But the life cycle, we're talking about death again. And Mr. Wallaker is a very straight-talking, science-based individual who already marked Billy, who is a high achiever at school, with a C in science for saying that there's heaven, because that is a religious thing. So having this interview, and they talk about this life cycle, he talks about it from a very literal, as it is, the body of the fruit fly, how that process works, and not really talking about the soul. And you can really see how this affects Billy, but also you can see why it's important that Mr. Bollock is a little bit more open to the other explanations and the reasons why they're given to children and things like that. Another thing that Bridget ends up signing up to, she says she's an outdoorsy person, which is absolutely not true, and then ends up doing a school trip, which I actually don't know where they went, but it was a stunning location. It was kind of a hike, and then they were sleeping over. I didn't think there was that many chaperones for the kids, but then again, it is quite a small class. And this is where you see Scott Wallaker really kind of liking Bridget. She is singing and dancing with all of the children on the school bus, and he's like, I should join in. And something that I noticed was the parallels between him and Mark Darcy. Now, by all means, they're two very different people, but something that they do have is they're quite stoic. They talk a lot about what they believe in. And, you know, I think it takes Bridget to change their outlook on things and essentially shut them up as well. Again, that will come in later on this school trip anyway. So it's raining and they have to find shelter. And not only did Mr. Wallaker see something in Bridget he liked on the bus, but Bridget saw something she liked in Mr. Wallaker when he takes his shirt off because it's wet. And you can see here the sort of will they won't they relationship start to come through in the film. And yeah, it was really nice. So this, yeah, she also brings marshmallows because she's a mum, so she brings them to the trip, and they end up having this lovely campfire moment. And then when people are going to sleep, one of the posh twins, he is feeling quite scared and says, oh, like, my mum usually sings this song. So Billy goes over to Bridget to get her to help, and then that actually gives Mr. Wallaker and Billy time to talk. So Billy hasn't been a huge fan of Mr. Wallaker because he has given him lower marks at school. He is quite strict, but this is where they bond. And I think it's really nice that they did that, because I think there are some risks, I want to say, of speaking about more personal things as a teacher with a student, or so I would imagine. I'm not a teacher and don't actually have any friends that are, but I can just imagine there's some sort of lines you have to be careful not to cross, and I think it was handled really nicely. And the child that plays Billy, I'm going to Google their name, but they're really, really strong performer. So I just checked their name. I have no idea how to say the surname. Casper Knopf. Very, very good actor. And I saw it the whole way through, but you really see it here as well. And then, I don't know, I feel like I probably put way too much into Act 1. I think that is the main part of Act 2. There is another bit where Bridget revisits Emma Thompson again at the doctor's, at the gynecologist, and it's because she has put some lip oil on from Venezuela. I just like the way they kind of add in these over-the-top comedy, but actually it feels really expected. Like, I almost want to say slapstick, because, I don't know, it's not slapstick because she didn't fall over as such, but she can't speak. And she literally goes, huff, 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 huff. And it's ridiculous. And I was laughing, so it worked. And actually, I really want to know if she was wearing fake lips or it was a filter, because I feel like it was a filter because it kept moving. The lips looked like a Snapchat thing. But yeah, Emma Thompson's like, this is not what I recommended. And this is just a reaction, it'll go down. And then literally in the next scene, her lips are back to normal. Oh, there we go. She had a call. And Hugh Grant, well, Daniel Cleaver, he found out he had a heart and a heart murmur. And again, it's sort of the way that this film kept switching between comedy, heartfelt, sadness, learning, exploration. It was great. And I think it was nice to see Daniel have that moment of recognition that, you know, he is human, because let's be honest, he is a sleazebag. And they also talk about his son, who was 15. I don't remember where this son came from. Was this something in between the films, or is my memory bad? I haven't watched the second one enough. Did it happen then? But yes, so actually it can't have happened then. It would have happened in 2010 where there was no film. So yeah, that's probably what we're looking at for Act 2. Bridget Jones is a Christmas film. I never really think of it as that. I always forget it's a Christmas film, but Act 3 is when you realise, oh, yep, here we go. We're at the winter time where there's always perfect falling snow, which isn't actually realistic of London, but we love to see it. And the main part of this act, I would say, is around the Christmas concert. So there's been a bit of time passed, just a small bit. At this point now, Bridget really likes Chloe, the babysitter. And when Billy says that he's performing in the Christmas concert, he's like, do you want 2 tickets? One for you, one for Mabel. And she says 3. And it's so that we're led to believe that she's seeing someone, but obviously she's not. Rockstar does come back to see her at the TV studio, but they decide that it's not the right move for them to be together. So she is very much on her own at this point in the film. And actually that 3rd ticket is so that Chloe can come and support him as well, because they get on so well. There is a moment where Bridget and Chloe realise that they're a little bit more similar, or at least Bridget realises, and it's when Chloe hasn't gone to her, I think it was Tai Chi class on a Thursday with, I want to say Graham, but Graham sounds not like the right kind of name. And yeah, Bridget's like, oh, okay, she's not too bad. And when she does go out earlier on in the film, like, you know, Chloe gives her a bit of a hairpiece, and that's really nice. So there's many things that have made their relationship a lot nicer, a lot stronger, I should say. So the Christmas concert, they're running to it, they're late, and it's Mr. Walker's like, you must come get your seat, and it starts off with a duet between the twins, which is painful, but I love it, because who doesn't laugh at kids performing on stage in the nicest way? It's not like laughing at them, well, it is, but in a proud way. But they're not great, and she finally has a go at her husband for having his AirPod in, like, actually rip it out. I couldn't deal. So it starts with that, and then Mr. Walker comes on stage and says that we've got not spontaneous, but a new solo added. They're really proud, and you know, it's unexpected to Bridget. I saw exactly, as soon as he said that, I knew exactly who was coming on stage and what they were going to perform. So then they were like, oh, and they're going to sing. I was like, yes, I know where this is going. Billy sang I'll Do Anything, which, you know, it's a callback to that flashback of Mark Darcy singing that to him. And honestly, I cried again. This is where I cried again. His voice was angelic. You know, it was refined enough to be a really great part of the film without being too perfect that it's like, oh, this kid is a musical theatre trained kid. But no, absolutely amazing. Bridget's crying. Mabel's like, way, and Chloe's there filming it. And it's just perfect, honestly. And Bridget's thank you speech to Mr. Walker was also really, really sweet. She found out on the, I'm going to call it school hike, on the school trip, that Mr. Walker never really got around to having kids. And obviously he loves kids because he works in a school and he wants to guide them. And he had done so much for Billy when after he confided at that campfire. So for him to be able to perform this song, and also he'd grown in confidence because at the parents' evening they'd said that he'd been withdrawn. Yeah, she's super appreciative and invites him for a drink at the Spaniard, which is a pub nearby. So when they leave the Christmas concert and Mr. Walker's getting all the praise from all the mums and dads, I think it was mostly mums, but there were dads there too. Bridget goes and meets all of her amazing friends again. The kids are there as well. And when she sees him, he does come and he looks outside, and I think he gets a bit scared because he wants to say something, but essentially probably is a little bit scared about what is considered suitable when you're a teacher and this is a parent and all of these things. So what does she do? Runs out after him. Billy's like, that way. Runs in the snow, which is such a lovely nod to the first film. She is wearing trousers, mind, or a skirt or a dress. I think it was a skirt or dress. And Mr. Walker just talks and talks and talks until she shuts him up with a kiss. And it's like, yay. That is what I wanted. You've got the relationship from earlier that was, I mean, it was still definitely very sweet, but, you know, I guess a little bit more lust. And this is more, you found that person that can understand and is on the same wavelength, and maybe you don't have the same dreams, but you could work them together. And it's just so nice. And yeah, again, that was just where I saw so many similarities between him and Mark Darcy that it felt like a close enough fit that you understand why it's happening, but it's not replacing him. Because I think that's something that's so important when you're grieving someone that you loved and also your children have. You can't have someone... Yeah, you just can't look like you're replacing, basically. But the children already have such a good bond with him. So it was super duper nice. And then you go to the New Year's Eve party that's in their home. I think it's... Was it the New Year's Eve party a year after? I think it was. And they're together, and it was just so sweet. And what I loved here was all the kind of... I felt so nostalgic. It was literally friends. And they mentioned how they've been friends for 30 years and they couldn't do life without each other for that long. And I can totally see it through 4 films. So what's that? It's probably like 7 hours. Just 7 hours we've watched these people. I totally get their friendships. And it's funny because they're so wildly different. You've got the bubbly one, the sort of miserable one, the camp one that relies on his top hit, and Bridget, who's scatty. It's absolutely perfect. And they have taken each other through life, and then they're all at this party. And then you've got Daniel Cleaver there, and you've got his son Enzo, who is a mini Daniel. And it's just funny because he's flirting with that posh mum again. I don't know, has she split up with the husband with the AirPod? I hope so. And then also you've got, again, what is their name? The presenter, the other friend of Bridget that is like literally probably one of my favourite people. She ends up making out with Daniel, and then so does the friend with the hit song. Well, tries to. And I was like, this is just too funny to me. Mr. Borlicus plays the piano for Auld Lang Syne, singing, and it was just such a lovely way to end the film. And if I remember correctly, it does slow-mo. Oh, hold on. And my absolute favourite nod to this was little Billy Darcy wearing a Christmas jumper. I think, I cried there as well. They were doing a slow-mo of him jumping up and down, like with his friends and that, wearing a reindeer on a green jumper. And obviously that was like our first sight of Mark Darcy. I think the way they put this film together is just phenomenal, honestly. Like, I'm going to be talking about it for ages. I'm sad it's the last one, but I also totally get it. So yeah, I guess it's now time to put this incoherent review into a more brief review for you about how I actually feel about everything from the performance, the writing, the cinematography, the edit, the music, because I often think, like the third one, I loved the soundtrack to that. I just thought it was so fitting. I don't recall hearing anything in particular. I was like, oh, that was spot on, but it's always great. It's like the first one with All By Myself. You can't go wrong with All By Myself. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is give you my review that I have just prepared, so it's not me waffling on. And then I'm going to read reviews online that I've mostly tried not to read and see if it compares, see if it is the opinion of the general public or if I'm wildly off. Okay, so this is what I've put together. Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy is the perfect blend of nostalgia, humour, and surprising emotional depth. It invites us back into the lives of beloved characters, both familiar and new, and introduces us to the next generation of Joneses and Darcys. The experience is a bittersweet, emotional, and above all joyful one. Bridget once again finds herself in the most predictably unpredictable situations, keeping us laughing at every turn. As far as romantic storylines go, it's a well-prepared classic with no extra sprinkles, delivered with the signature Bridget Jones charm. The addition of exploring generational grief adds a poignant layer to the story, offering a fresh perspective from the previous films in the series. Just don't ask me if I cried more in sadness or from tears of joy. So, yeah, it would be great to see what other people think. So, I'm going to go online right now. What should I go for first? I think, let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says, because that is actually usually what I look at when I want to go see a film. So, we are loading it up now. And also, seeing as it only came out yesterday, there might not be tons of them, but we can see. Okay, so the review... Oh, you know what? I need to give it out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9.5. I really like it. I am a sucker for rom-coms. I'm going to give it 9.5. Rotten Tomatoes has given it 86%. That is very good. That is very good. And that is 86% on the critics' tomatometer and 85% on the popcorn meter. Tomato meter, popcorn meter, not tomato, whatever I just said. Okay, so pretty much even keel. So that's like an 8.5. Okay, I like it a little bit more. But you know what? This generally happens when you're looking at a comedy. I actually think it's quite hard to rank a comedy very high. So if we're looking at critics' reviews, we've got 70. Which one is coming up top? So we've got one here by Jen Yamato, Washington Post. An age gap romance is the least ridiculous situation Bridget Jones has found herself in, and Renée Zellweger and Leo Woodall create natural sweet sparks. Oh, that's not the full review. Okay, right, we need a full review because I was going to say that's not giving me everything, but I agree, it was good. Is it loading? Okay, so we're actually going through to the Washington Post. Okay, this is a good way to do it. Apart from, I don't have a subscription, so we will try another one. We have here Newsweek. Let's see if it opens the full review. If not, we're not going to read you Newsweek. Well, you know what? That doesn't even want to open. This isn't working. Right, back to Google. Back to Google. Okay, The Guardian 2 days ago. Oh, they got a little preview then. What? 2 stars out of 5? Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Okay, I'm not agreeing with UK media, apparently. So, the headline for the review. Bridget Jones mad about the boy review. Giant laughs for Hugh Grant, but weepy sequel is strangely dazed. Okay, and then the subheading, Renée Zellweger looks as if she's thinking of something else in weird forquel that sounded like I said something really bad, like sequel, but the fourth, forquel, that sees our heroine choosing between new suitors, Leo Woodall, and, oh no, I'm really bad with names, Twetel Ejiofor? Right, scrap that, I'm going to pause, I'm going to keep this in, but I'm going to pause, I'm going to find out how to say his name, I'm going to say it again. Okay, gang, I've got it. It's Chiwetel Ejiofor. Let's go again. So, Renée Zellweger looks as if she's thinking of something else in weird forquel that sees our heroine choosing between new suitors, Leo Woodall and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Okay, so they don't like it. So they're saying that... What? They're saying that the last film leapt forward and then leapt back. There were tired novelties, but it was still likeable. So what's wrong with this one? Same unhappy tradition as Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. The jokes have been dialed down to accommodate a contrived and unconvincingly mature weepy component. I really like the weepy component, but the film becomes sad in the wrong way. The actors are going through the motions. There's so little chemistry between each of the 2 lead pairings. They resemble a panda being forced to mate with a flamingo. I don't need to see that. This is a weird review. A panda being forced to mate with a flamingo. I mean, it's really not like that. Now, I will say, as I did sort of touch on it, they rushed the intensity towards the end of the relationship with Bridget Jones and Rockstar. I do agree with that, but I think they had chemistry. I think it really worked. And then the whole point of the relationship with Mr. Wallaker is that it isn't that. It's a mutual understanding. And in a way, there's not tons of opportunity to see the chemistry. Maybe they could have more chemistry in that sense. Okay, so 1 or 2 nice touches. What did they like? They liked the Swimmer TV ad, Darcy 2.0 hunk in water. Yes. Okay. Yeah, no, I did say that was funny. Emma Thompson was great. Yeah, can't like that. Naturally, Hugh Grant gets giant laughs. Well, interestingly, I don't find him that funny, but I did very much like that he was in it. So, right, this is quite a long review. Basically, they're not in love with it as much as I am. Now, you know what? They have brought up something that I did want to talk about, but if I start talking about this, we might be here for 4 hours. There is something at the moment about films with middle-aged women dating younger men, and I don't have anything against it per se, but I guess because trends are trends, there's a lot of them. So I watched a film with Anne Hathaway, and I've completely forgotten the name of it, and I really enjoyed that film, and it somewhat made sense. But like, why does that have to be a thing that when you haven't been in a relationship for a while, the women they come back to it with a younger man? What is the value that is bringing? Just that it's a bit of fun? because as you can see in actually that film as well, they don't end up together. And in Bridget Jones, they end up with the one at the more similar age, more things in line. Now, I think that obviously age gap can totally be a thing, and that's fine. I find it interesting that it's something that's happening at the moment. Is it saying something about the women, or is it saying something about the men? Like, what are they trying to say with this? So, please write in, tell me what you think. Okay, right, I'm going to get off this review. They don't like it. Let's have a look at Daily Mail. Sometimes I forget which publication says what. So, they've said, don't let Bridget's toy boy put you off. This is a first-class rom-com. Okay, 4 out of 5. Yep, you know what? If I had to do like a 5-star thing, I find it really hard to give 5 stars to anything, so 4 stars is very much, I'm liking this. Are you keeping up with the Joneses? Yes, evidently I have. Okay, so the best since... Oh, they've said it's the best since the original. You know what? I have been really struggling. The third has been my favourite. I don't know if this has beat it. I don't think so. I think if I had to rank my favourites, it could be 3, 1 and 4 together, and then 2? Maybe I need to watch all 4 in a row. Okay, so they're saying that if advanced ticket sales if advanced ticket sales alone are anything to go by, then this is great, basically. So she's accident prone. Yes. Right, this is not a review, more just telling me what happens in the film. Several truly funny scenes. You know, I agree. I really agree. Smartly written by Dan Mazer, Abby Morgan, and Bridget's creator Helen Fielding, and slickly directed by Michael Morris. You know what? I haven't touched specifically on like direction and cinematography and things like that I do really like. Now, cinematography I find a lot easier to talk about when you're looking at, I don't know, something like a thriller or a drama, and there's a lot of specific techniques used. As always, it was great, and like the set design stuff, like the parties and the crowds and the way that they chose to do the bridge, walking across the bridge scene again to reflect how she starts her day and feels confident, and they did that in other films. I thought it was great. What I did notice was I kept seeing the same extras, so obviously, which makes sense, they filmed it all at the same time and they changed their coats, but I'm like, are you supposed to be walking next to the same lady as you were the other day? Cinematography was great. Okay, right, I'm sorry, I've not read enough of that. Let's have a look at which ones have I looked at? The Standard. I'm going to make this the last one, actually. Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy review. A bloated, weeping sogfest. 2 out of 5. What? Guys, am I just, like, not with it? I did say I'm easily impressed, like, easily pleased, rather, but it's good. It is good. Oh, do I let them sway me? Maybe I need to watch it again. Anyway, so the latest instalment of Bridget Jones brings back the old cast but falls into mawkishness. I don't know what that word means. I'll read more of this for you guys. So, to paraphrase her own mode of self-criticism, this latest instalment in the saga of hapless London singleton Bridget Jones is very, very poor. Michael Morris's film, adapted from Helen Fielding's 4th novel, is a bloated, weeping sogfest that blunders laboriously through the established tropes of the series. What? Have your cake and don't eat it references to society's obsession with youth, beauty and thinness, yes. All the old cast back together with some young blood pumped in. Well, yes. You know what? I do feel that with these sort of films, and almost that's why I don't really like that they had a romance with someone younger as well, because I think they could have easily just done it with 2 people the same age. Like, I think you can't just keep the same cast and not acknowledge that they would have a family, there would be younger people in that, but it's like, did that have to be the love interest? So, kind of get that. Hugh Grant's efficient cameo is incorrigible, Lothario. Daniel Cleaver carries a whiff of Nosferatu about it now that he's perving over women 1/3 his age. Yeah, true, actually. Having blown hot and cold on her uptight lawyer lover Mark Darcy over the first 3 stories, Bridget has now comprehensively lost him to a bomb in the sedan. He left her well off, though. Well, yes, to be fair, she did not work for 4 years. And had the house. Okay. Again, though, it's not actually the review is not that bad. They're just saying... Basically, what they don't like is... The cast have aged, that's going to happen, and it's weepy and sad. Well, you know what? Get a grip. Death happens. It kind of makes sense. I loved it. Okay? How do we feel about that? Cool, right. I'm going to come back for the last part of the episode. Something I want to do with each of these episodes is leave you with a quote that resonated with me. And again, I didn't write notes, so am I going to get these word for word? Probably not. I'm not going to go for one because I'm stuck. I mean, I loved the he's not my cat, he's my husband, but that's not going to last with us, I don't think. So there was a line that I can't find now, but it's essentially what the father said in that flashback scene, saying, yeah, you mustn't survive, you must live. And then I have just done a bit of a search online, and Bridget Jones does say, Bridget Jones, it's time to live. That is great. I think maybe that's the one, but there is another one that I have had to search. So I'm going to leave you, before I look at what things I'm looking forward to seeing next, I'm going to leave you with this quote from Bridget Jones. And even though there might be 600,000 words in the human language, the world still struggles to find the right ones when someone you love is gone. In the past week, I've actually seen 3 films. So at the cinema, just at the cinema, I saw Moana 2, I saw A Complete Unknown, and then obviously I saw Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. And I got to see quite a few film trailers in that time. So I don't know if I remember all of them. I know I've seen the trailer for Snow White a couple of times that I think looks really quite good. I mean, oddly, the trailer didn't really wow me, and I don't know why, because Snow White was one of my all-time favourites. The initial, I think it's the first ever illustrated animated film that they did. Is that right? 1942? That was one of my favourites, absolutely. So they're doing that. There was a trailer for Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson. Now that is a genre that is completely not my bag, but I think it looked great. Really, really good. Then there was one with Cate Blanchett. Now, if there's a film with Cate Blanchett in, you better believe I am going to watch it. So Black Bag, I thought this looked really good. It's a film directed by Steven Soderbergh, and it's an American spy thriller film. So that is one that I am going to be watching soon. I don't know, all of the release dates for the films that I was looking at, they all seem to be the 7th of March. No, they're not obviously all going to be that, but they are going to be close, I imagine, apart from those ones that randomly do a trailer a year in advance. And then I think the final one that I saw something with dragons, and it looked fantasy vibes. And again, that is not something I really like, but it really felt I felt like a child again, and I was watching Harry Potter for the first time. So I might have to find out the name of that one. If you know what it is, let me know. And I can add that to the list. But yeah, I think the final one was Showgirl. So this stars Pamela Anderson. It looks like it might have been filmed on 32mm film or something. Let me see if I can have a look. But I've never actually seen her in anything, I kind of catch the whole I'm doing no makeup at the red carpet. She seems really cool. So I'm definitely going to go watch this. And it's directed by Gia Coppola, again, if I said that right. And there's also Jamie Lee Curtis in it as well. So if I just try and find the synopsis, I think it's great. And it's one of those, it did the festival circuit, and it's really, and it has Brenda Song in. When I saw that, I'm living my Disney Channel dream. So it had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of last year. And it did a limited theatrical release from the 13th of December. Wait, so does that mean it's already out? Huh. Anyway, she is a 57-year-old showgirl who has performed for 3 decades. And in the trailer, she is doing an audition, what it looks like. And she looks kind of nervous, but I think it's interesting to see what I believe is the oldest successful showgirl. I am definitely Definitely going to watch that. If there's anything that you want me to watch, anything you want me to listen to, I might also go to the theatre and see if we can do a review of that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have to write notes next time. Any feedback is welcomed. It's actually super hard talking to yourself. I thought it would be a lot easier. As I say, I do it all the time. But thank you so much for listening. And yeah, I look forward to doing this all again soon. All right. Ta-ta. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Nip to the Loo. The podcast music you can hear now was composed by Roger Pasto Cortina. If you would like to write into the podcast, you can do so by messaging me on Instagram at Louisa Jukes. See you next episode.